In the century following the Peloponnesian War, the Greek world was marked by shifting hegemonies, near constant warfare, and political exhaustion. Sparta's brief supremacy gave way to Theban ascendancy under Epaminondas, whose campaigns permanently crippled Sparta and reshaped the balance of power. Yet even Thebes' dominance proved short-lived, leaving the Greek city-states weakened and vulnerable. Out of this fractured political landscape rose Macedon, a peripheral kingdom that, under the visionary leadership of Philip II, transformed into the dominant power of the Hellenic world in just 25 years. Philip II, trained in Thebes under Epaminondas, combined tactical innovation, most notably the introduction of the sarissa, armed phalanx, with shrewd diplomacy and relentless expansion. Through victories in the Third Sacred War, strategic conquests across the Balkans and the Aegean coast, and the formation of the League of Corinth in 337 BCE, he secured Macedon's supremacy and laid the groundwork for an ambitious invasion of the Persian Empire. His assassination in 336 BCE left that mission to his 20-year-old son, Alexander III, better known as Alexander the Great. Alexander inherited a seasoned army, a stable kingdom, and his father's imperial vision. Over the next decade, he conducted an unprecedented campaign that shattered the Persian Empire, extended Greek influence from the Mediterranean to the Indus River, and founded over 20 cities, including the cultural hub of Alexandria in Egypt. A master of adaptive strategy, Alexander won every battle he fought, whether facing Persian chariots, Indian war elephants, or Central Asian cavalry, by exploiting terrain, refining phalanx and cavalry tactics, and inspiring fierce loyalty among his troops. Alexander's death in 323 BCE without a clear successor plunged the empire into decades of civil war among his generals, the Diadochi. By the mid-3rd century BCE, the Hellenistic world had stabilized into four major kingdoms: the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt, the Seleucid Empire, the Attalid Kingdom of Pergamon, and Macedon. These successor states blended Greek and local traditions, though with distinct political styles, from Egypt's fusion of Greek and pharaonic rule to Macedon's retention of its more traditional kingship. The conquests of Philip and Alexander not only redrew the political map, but also ushered in an era of intense cultural exchange known as Hellenization, spreading Greek language, art, governance, and urban planning across the eastern Mediterranean and beyond. This lecture will explore the rise of Macedon under Philip II, the campaigns and legacy of Alexander the Great, the formation of the Hellenistic kingdoms, and the enduring legacy of this transformative age on the ancient world. Philip II's conquests during the Third Sacred War cemented his power, as well as the influence of Macedon, throughout the Hellenic world. In the aftermath of the Peloponnesian War, Sparta rose as a hegemonic power in classical Greece. Sparta's dominance was challenged by many Greek city-states who had traditionally been independent during the Corinthian War of 395 to 387 BCE. Sparta prevailed in the conflict, but only because Persia intervened on their behalf, demonstrating the fragility with which Sparta held its power over the other Greek city-states. In the next decade, the Thebans revolted against Sparta, successfully liberating their city-state, and later defeating the Spartans at the Battle of Leuctra in 371 BCE. Theban general Epaminondas then led an invasion of the Peloponnesus in 370 BCE, invaded Messenia, and liberated the Helots, permanently crippling Sparta. These series of events allowed the Thebans to replace Spartan hegemonic power of their own. For the next 9 years, Epaminondas and Theban general Pelopidas further extended Theban power and influence via a series of campaigns throughout Greece, bringing almost every city-state in Greece into the conflict. These years of war ultimately left Greece war-weary and depleted, and during Epaminondas' fourth invasion of the Peloponnesus in 362 BCE, he was killed at the Battle of Mantinea. Although Thebes emerged victorious, their losses were heavy, and the Thebans returned to a defensive policy, allowing Athens to reclaim its position at the center of the Greek political system for the first time since the Peloponnesian War. The Athenians' second confederacy would be Macedon's main rivals for control of the lands of the North Aegean. When Philip was young, he was held hostage in Thebes and received a military and diplomatic education from Epaminondas. By 364 BCE, Philip returned to Macedon, and the skills he learned while in Thebes, coupled with his expansionist vision of Macedonian greatness, brought him early successes when he ascended the throne in 359 BCE. When he assumed the throne, the eastern regions of Macedonia had been sacked and invaded by the Paeonians and the Thracians, and the Athenians had landed a contingent on the coast at Methone. Philip pushed the Paeonians and Thracians back, promising them tributes, and defeated the 3,000 Athenian hoplites at Methone. In the interim between conflicts, Philip focused on strengthening his army and his overall position domestically, introducing the phalanx infantry corps and arming them with long spears called sarissas. Philip earned immense prestige and secured Macedon's position in the Hellenic world during his involvement in the Third Sacred War, which began in Greece in 356 BCE. Early in the war, Philip defeated the Thessalians at the Battle of Crocus Field, allowing him to acquire Pherae and Magnesia, which was the location of an important harbor, Pagasae. He did not attempt to advance further into central Greece, however, because the Athenians occupied Thermopylae. Although there were no open hostilities between the Athenians and the Macedonians at the time, tensions had arisen as a result of Philip's recent land and resource acquisitions. Instead, Philip focused on subjugating the Balkan hill country in the west and north and attacking Greek coastal cities, many of which Philip maintained friendly relationships with, until he had conquered their surrounding territories. Nonetheless, war with Athens would arise intermittently for the duration of Philip's campaigns, due to conflicts over land and/or with allies. For many Macedonian rulers, the Achaemenid Empire in Persia was a major socio-political influence, and Philip II was no exception. Many institutions and demonstrations of his power mirrored established Achaemenid conventions. For example, Philip established a royal secretary and archive, as well as the institution of royal pages, which would mount the king on his horse in a manner very similar to the way in which Persian kings were mounted. He also aimed to make his power both political and religious in nature, utilizing a special throne stylized after those of the Achaemenid court to demonstrate his elevated rank. Achaemenid administrative practices were also utilized in Macedonian rule of conquered lands such as Thrace in 342 to 334 BCE. In 337 BCE, Philip created and led the League of Corinth. Members of the League agreed not to engage in conflict with one another unless their aim was to suppress revolution. Another stated aim of the League was to invade the Persian Empire. Ironically, in 336 BCE, Philip was assassinated during the earliest stages of the Persian venture, during the marriage of his daughter Cleopatra to Alexander I of Epirus. In a little over 30 years, Alexander the Great created one of the largest empires in the ancient world, using his military and tactical genius. Following the decline of the Greek city-states, the Greek kingdom of Macedon rose to power under Philip II. Alexander III, commonly known as Alexander the Great, was born to Philip II in Pella in 356 BCE, and succeeded his father to the throne at the age of 20. He spent most of his ruling years on an unprecedented military campaign through Asia and Northeast Africa, and by the age of 30 had created one of the largest empires of the ancient world, which stretched from Greece to Egypt and into present-day Pakistan. He was undefeated in battle and is considered one of history's most successful commanders. During his youth, Alexander was tutored by the philosopher Aristotle until the age of 16. When he succeeded his father to the throne in 336 BCE, after Philip was assassinated, Alexander inherited a strong kingdom and an experienced army. He had been awarded the generalship of Greece and used his authority to launch his father's military expansion plans. In 334 BCE, he invaded the Achaemenid Empire, ruled Asia Minor, and began a series of campaigns that lasted 10 years. Alexander broke the power of Persia in a series of decisive battles, most notably the battles of Issus and Gaugamela. He overthrew the Persian king Darius III and conquered the entirety of the Persian Empire. At that point, his empire stretched from the Adriatic Sea to the Indus River. Seeking to reach the ends of the world and the great outer sea, he invaded India in 326 BCE, but was eventually forced to turn back at the demand of his troops. Alexander died in Babylon in 323 BCE, the city he planned to establish as his capital without executing a series of planned campaigns that would have begun with an invasion of Arabia. In the years following his death, a series of civil wars tore his empire apart, resulting in several states ruled by the Diadochi, Alexander's surviving generals and heirs. Alexander's legacy includes the cultural diffusion of his engendered conquests. He founded some 20 cities that bore his name, the most notable being Alexandria in Egypt. Alexander's settlement of Greek colonists and the spread of Greek culture in the East resulted in a new Hellenistic civilization, aspects of which were still evident in the traditions of the Byzantine Empire in the mid-15th century. Alexander became legendary as a classical hero in the mold of Achilles, and he features prominently in the history and myth of Greek and non-Greek cultures. He became the measure against which military leaders compared themselves, and military academies throughout the world still teach his tactics. Alexander earned the honorific epithet the Great due to his unparalleled success as a military commander. He never lost a battle, despite typically being outnumbered. His impressive record was largely due to his smart use of terrain, phalanx, and cavalry tactics, bold strategy, and the fierce loyalty of his troops. The Macedonian phalanx, armed with the sarissa, a spear up to 20 feet long, had been developed and perfected by Alexander's father, Philip II. Alexander used its speed and maneuverability to great effect against larger but more disparate Persian forces. Alexander also recognized the potential for disunity among his diverse army due to the various languages, cultures, and preferred weapons individual soldiers wielded. He overcame the possibility of unrest among his troops by being personally involved in battles, as was common among Macedonian kings. In his first battle in Asia at Granicus, Alexander used only a small part of his forces, perhaps 13,000 infantry with 5,000 cavalry, against a much larger Persian force of 40,000. Alexander placed the phalanx at the center and cavalry and archers on the wings, so that his line matched the length of the Persian cavalry line. By contrast, the Persian infantry was stationed behind its cavalry. Alexander's military positioning ensured that his troops would not be outflanked. Further, his phalanx, armed with long pikes, had a considerable advantage over Persian scimitars and javelins. Macedonian losses were negligible compared to those of the Persians. At Issus in 333 BCE, his first confrontation with Darius, he used the same deployment, and again the central phalanx pushed through. Alexander personally led the charge in the center and routed the opposing army. At the decisive encounter with Alexander at Gaugamela, Darius equipped his chariots with scythes on the wheels to break up the phalanx and equipped his cavalry with pikes. Alexander in turn arranged a double phalanx, with the center advancing at an angle, which parted when the chariots bore down and reformed once they had passed. The advance proved successful and broke Darius's center, and Darius was forced to retreat once again. When faced with opponents who used unfamiliar fighting techniques, such as in Central Asia and India, Alexander adapted his forces to his opponent's style. For example, in Bactria and Sogdiana, Alexander successfully used his javelin throwers and archers to prevent outflanking movements while massing his cavalry at the center. In India, confronted by Porus's elephant corps, the Macedonians opened their ranks to envelop the elephants and used their sarissas to strike upwards and dislodge the elephants' handlers.